and they're going to teach you all about food in Ecuador, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and India today.
Hi guys, so I'm Emma, as Liz introduced me, and as she said again, I'm sorry I can't, you guys won't be able to see me, but you guys can look at these beautiful pictures of food on here. I'm hungry. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm probably going to struggle through this. But if everybody could turn to the person on their left, I know you all are pretty far apart, social distance and everything, but turn to the person on your left and tell them your favorite food. And if there's no one on your left, you can turn to the person on your right. I heard pizza, bacon, Chinese food, some pretty good choices. Do you guys have a second favorite food? And if you don't have a second favorite food, maybe your least favorite food. Tell that to the person on your right, maybe those wiggled out a little. Now, moving on to our countries that we're each going to be presenting, does anyone know where Ecuador is? Maybe is it in South America or is it in Asia? I'm hearing someone say South America. You're right. It is in South America. So Ecuador is here, kind of up at the top. It's between Colombia and Peru. Now, yeah, so it's America. It's the one right below North America. And going to the next country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Does anyone know where that is? Now, is Bosnia and Herzegovina in South America or is it in Europe? In a lot of Europe. You guys are good. All right. Yeah, it's in Europe. It's a small little country. It's on the coast of the Mediterranean, kind of. It only has a coastline, but it's there. Yeah, I'll be presenting on Bosnia and Herzegovina. Oh, and Grace is going to be presenting on Ecuador. And our last but not least country is India. And do you know where India is? Is it in North America or is it in Asia? Sounds like everyone got it. Yeah, you guys are right. It's in Asia. And so it's a pretty big country. It actually has a very, very large amount of people that live in it. And yeah, so now we're going to get started talking about the food from each country. Oh, and Gargi is going to present on India. Now I'm going to let Grace take over and I'm going to watch and get really, really hungry.
I hope you're all doing okay. So my name is Grace and I'll be talking to you about some of my favorite foods from Ecuador. So Ecuador is in South America, as y'all have already said, and it's near Peru and Colombia. So if you ever go to Peru or you go to Ecuador or you go to Colombia, you'll find that some of the foods might be similar because those countries are all kind of close together. So they kind of inspire each other in terms of food. So just a little bit about me. So I'm actually from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm not from North Carolina. So I've loved getting to explore and get to learn about y'all's state for the last few years. And I lived in Quito, which is one of the bigger cities that you might have seen on the map in the spring semester of 2020. So earlier this year, like in January and February. So here are some common ingredients that you might find in different Ecuadorian dishes. So we have potatoes. I love potatoes. I don't know if y'all like potatoes, but I love potatoes. There are so many different kinds of potatoes you can find in Ecuador, as well as beans. There are white beans, black beans, red beans, so many different kinds of rice dishes. So if you're used to eating rice, you could go to Ecuador and you'd already be pretty set because there's lots of delicious rice dishes. They also have a variety of meats, and some of the popular ones are chicken, especially like chicken on a grill, like maybe if you have like a cookout or something, or steak. And they're also in some really delicious food as well, includes eggs, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, and a sort of special food called plátanos. And plátanos are very similar to plantains. So if you've ever had plantains or like banana chips, those are kind of similar to what you might find in Ecuador. And so different dishes utilize any of these foods in a really yummy variety of ways. So here is one of my favorite dishes. So when I was in Ecuador, I lived with a host mom. So she helped me wash my clothes. She would make me lunch and dinner. And she was kind of like my mom back in the United States. So she was really wonderful. And she would make these delicious dishes called locro de papa, so like a potato soup. So if any of y'all have ever had like cheese and potato soup or potato stew, that's basically what a locro is. So there's potato, there's salt, of course, plenty of seasoning, mozzarella cheese, like the cheese you'll find on pizza, but on soup, very delicious, and also avocado. So this would be a perfect dish for maybe lunch or for dinner in Ecuador. People can typically have breakfast and then a really big, delicious lunch. And then they typically have something like maybe a soup or maybe a smaller snack for dinner. And so I definitely had to get used to that. But I really enjoyed it. So this was definitely a perfect soup for lunch or dinner. And a fun fact, in Ecuador, it's very common to actually put popcorn in your soup. And I had never tried that before, but now it's one of my favorite things to do. So pop a little popcorn and you could add it to your soup.
Would any of you guys want to try popcorn in your soup? You can raise your hand if you think you would want to try it, or give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. See, a few people might want to try it.
Yeah, I definitely say, something really awesome about studying abroad is giving new things a try. So keep an open heart, keep an open mind, because now I love popcorn with my soup. Another really fantastic dish that I loved, that I ate so many times for lunch, was an Ecuadorian churrasco. And in a churrasco, there's white rice, there's usually a fried egg, there's some avocado. You can see a little slice of avocado, and I love avocado, so I was very happy to see so much avocado in Ecuador. Also, French fries. I don't know if y'all like French fries. I love French fries. So I was very happy to eat French fries with my churrasco. There's also some salsa, which had some beets and some other tomatoes and vegetables. You'll also kind of see like a coleslaw, which is kind of very similar to an Ecuadorian salad. So cabbage and onions with a little sauce, as well as steak. But you could eat churrasco with any kind of meat, or if you don't like meat, you could also have it with tofu as well. So lots of different variety. This is a pretty great lunch meal. Very substantial, lots of different foods, definitely help you sustain your nourishment throughout the day. So one of my favorite, I love dessert. Do y'all like dessert? Well, I love dessert, and every day my host mom Paulina, she would make me a different dessert. And one of my favorite ones to eat was actually called espumilla. And it kind of looks like ice cream. So the first time I saw it, I thought it was kind of like a soft serve ice cream cone. But my host mom, she said, no, it's like whipped cream. And so an espumilla is like a whipped cream or a meringue with sprinkles. I love sprinkles. And also kind of like a fruit sauce. So one of my favorite espumillas I would get with like a blackberry sauce drizzled on top, and it was delicious. And it still kind of felt like ice cream, but it never melted. So that's kind of the great thing about espumilla. On a hot day, you can eat it and enjoy it, and it's just as sweet and delicious, but it doesn't melt on you like ice cream might.
All right, hi guys, I'm back. I'm going to talk about Bosnian food. So I'm just going to real quick in these two pictures. Do you guys like corn? Do you guys eat corn a lot? Would you ever buy it on the side of a street? Would you see a stall and you're just like, oh, I really want some corn? You think you would? I didn't think I would. And then I go to Bosnia. Nathan. And they have corn on the side of the street, and you go and you buy a cup, and it's corn in a cup, and they put seasoning on it. And so I had chicken seasoning and chili seasoning. So good. Yeah. This is me. Here's a picture of me since you can't see me, and that was from when I was in Bosnia. I grew up in Lincolnton, North Carolina, so I'm from North Carolina, born and raised. And I lived in Bosnia and Herzegovina for I'll probably just call it Bosnia, just to shorten it so it's less of a mouthful. And I was there from August 2019 until March 2020 last year. Where do you guys eat lunch? You guys usually eat lunch in a cafeteria, right? So growing up, I always ate lunch in a cafeteria. But when I was in Bosnia, during school, instead of having a cafeteria, there was no cafeteria in the school. And so they had like 5 different bakeries surrounding the school. And I had my favorite one. And I would go there every single day and I would buy just some baked good. And you can see a picture of what it looks like inside of a bakery. And the food is so good in a bakery. A lot of bread, lots and lots of bread. And yeah, so common food, as I said, is so big there. Do you guys like bread? So bread is eaten with every single meal. There was actually a joke I heard that Bosnians eat bread with bread. So if they're having a sandwich for a meal, they're gonna have a slice of bread to go with it. So very big, and these are some of the breads. The one in the top corner, that one, it's fried bread, and it's made very simple. It's just like flour and I think water or something. And you just fry it, and we had that so much. My host mom would make that almost every week. And yeah, and then another common food is you always had a salad to go with your meal. But salads are different. Do you see that picture of Bosnian salad? Do you guys want to take a guess of what's in the Bosnian salad? So the only ingredients in a Bosnian salad is tomatoes, cucumber, and onion, and put some salt on it. And there's a salad. Yeah. And that's what you have in the summer and the spring, because that's when the vegetables are fresh. And then in the winter, you're going to have what's called kiseli kupis, which is pickled cucumber, or possibly cucumber. It's also, in America, it's most similar to sauerkraut. And so that's what you're going to have in the winter because nothing's fresh. And then 2 more common food that you eat a lot in Bosnia are potatoes and meat. They love potatoes and they love meat. So in the bottom corner, I have a picture of a meal from when I was in Bosnia, and you see all these common foods. You got the loaf of bread there, so I would just cut myself a slice and eat it. And then I have there's a stew with meat and potatoes. And you can't really tell, but behind my mug there's a Bosnian salad. That's the typical dinner meal. The most famous and most popular Bosnian food is called cevapi. And this is the food that food bloggers will come from around the world just to taste cevapi, and it's the best in Bosnia. And it's cevaps, which are these little meat, and they kind of look like sausages. And you put that, and you can eat that on your own. So sometimes my host dad would grill those, and we would just eat them plain. Maybe have some mayo on it or something. But usually the traditional way to eat it is to eat it on somun, which is the bread you see, and you have some chopped onion on the side, which you can get that or you cannot get that. It's up to you if you don't like onion. And then another popular way to eat it is with kaimak, which is this cream they have, and it's not in America, which is very upsetting to me. I can't find it anywhere, but it's very similar to sour cream. Do you guys like sour cream? I was obsessed with it as a kid, but I was told I was weird and crazy. The next famous, next biggest meal that we have, my host mom would make these about every other week, and it would last a couple of days because she'd make 2 really big ones. And that's Bosnian pita. So there's a very common form of pita bread in here in the US, but it's different from that. So pita is, so you take dough as you see me and my friend doing in the top corner, and you spread it really, really thin. And then once you have it really thin, you're going to put a topping or a filling inside, and then you roll it up. And when you cook it, it looks golden and flaky like you see in the pictures. And when you bite into it, it just kind of falls apart. It's so good. And Bosnian pita is usually you take it, you eat it with a glass of yogurt. Do you guys drink yogurt? Some people like yogurt, some people don't. This yogurt is actually really, really sour. It's kind of a mixture between yogurt and sour cream. So they like sour stuff, but it's very good. Multiple types of Bosnian pita. So you have sirnica, which is where you put cheese inside of the pita. And that's my personal favorite. It tastes so good. I love cheese. I'm obsessed with cheese. I will eat cheese all the time. My least favorite one was zeljanica, which is pita with spinach. Do you guys like spinach? And the next one, this is the most famous one. It's burek, which is pita with meat. And as I said earlier, Bosnians love their meat in almost every single meal. And then the final one is krampirusha, and that's pita with potatoes. They're all very good, but sirnica is my personal favorite.
All right, which one would you guys want to try? So I'll tell you the different options, and you'll just only raise your hand. So the different options are cheese, spinach, meat, or potatoes. Meat and potatoes look like they're maybe the most popular.
It's the same in Bosnia. Everyone loves meat and potatoes. All right, moving on to the one that's going to make us all wish dessert will come quickly tonight. Dessert in Bosnia is so popular. My host made a dessert every week. Almost every single night we had dessert. We'd have it watching TV, and we'd have tea with it or coffee. So it's very, very popular. These are some of my favorite ones that I had when I was in Bosnia. So you have the ruske kape, which translates to Russian hats, because it looks like the traditional hat in Russia. And I really like this one because it has coconut and chocolate, and I love coconut and chocolate. The next one is hermashice, and this is a biscuit or a cookie drenched in syrup. It's just so much syrup. It's so good. And then the next one is tufahia, and this is you take an apple and you cook the apple and you drench this also in syrup, lots of syrup. And you sometimes you can put walnuts on it, and they have whipped cream on this one. And last but definitely not least is tulambe. And these are also another dessert that is drenched in syrup. They really love their syrup. And yeah, these are probably my least favorite of all of them, but they're good. They're still very good. And continuing with desserts, because there's never enough desserts, am I right? We have probably the two most famous ones in Bosnia. These are the most popular. Palacinke, which the literal translation is pancakes. But I don't know about you, but these don't look like pancakes I eat in my house. They're very simple to make. My host mom, we would make these sometimes nightly. We'd have them for 2 weeks straight. She'd just mix some flour, put some sugar in, and she'd bake them. And you can usually eat them with Nutella, or you can put fruit in them. And some places there was shops specifically for palacinke, and you could specifically buy meat. You could put meat in your pancakes and vegetables and make them for dinner and stuff. But my personal favorite was always the ones with chocolate. And then baklava is a very famous one. It's much harder to make, and I actually didn't realize that for a while. But my host mom made these for the first couple months. Almost every single week she would make baklava for me, which is very sweet of her. And so baklava are these little cakes, and they have these very, very thin layers. I don't know if you can kind of see that in the picture. I tried to choose one. But it has very thin layers that are filled with, specifically in Bosnia, it's usually made with walnuts. But you can fill them and make them with kind of whatever you would like, depending. It usually depends on what country and is what they're going to have. But yeah, they're very, very good. Would you guys rather have palacinke or baklava? Thankfully, baklava is actually, you can find it in North Carolina some places, depending on where you go. Well, it's in a lot of Greek restaurants. Highly recommend you try it.
Hi everyone, I'm Gargi, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm really hungry now, looking at all this delicious food. And we'll look at some Indian food now, so hopefully you guys will be even hungrier. Okay, so this is a little bit about me. I grew up in Michigan, so not from North Carolina. And then when I was in fourth grade, I moved to Pune in India. So I stayed in India for 7 years, and that's where I got to explore a lot of Indian food and Indian culture. So I hope you guys learned some of that from today's presentation. So first off, I have a question for everybody in the room. What do you guys know about Indian food? Can you name an Indian dish? If you know something that's an Indian food, raise your hand. Okay, we'll learn from this presentation. So there's a picture here on the right of samosa. I don't know if any of you have had it before, but it's kind of like a fried food, or like a baked or a fried food, and it's really common in a lot of Indian restaurants here. But this slide just shows a picture of the like typical Indian meal. So if you see, there's a lot of different colors, which shows like all the different spices that they add. And it's a very balanced kind of meal with grains and dessert and vegetables and maybe some fruits. And you'll see that on the next slide too. Okay, so this slide shows the kind of the division of all the different nutrients. So there's in the grains and starchy vegetables, you have roti, which is kind of like Indian bread, and then you have a lot of rice. Indians love rice. There's a lot of different types of lentils and beans, and then vegetables like onions and tomatoes and bottle gourd and things like that are also really common. Okay, so this part of the presentation today is about foods that you'd see here in America and similar foods in India. So raise your hand if you like pancakes. Who likes pancakes and breakfast? I do. Okay, I see a lot of hands. So there is a similar alternative in India, and it's called uttapam. So uttapam it looks like this. It kind of looks like a pancake. The difference is that it's spicy, so it's not sweet. It has onions and tomatoes and different kind of spices, but it tastes really good, and a lot of Indians have that for breakfast. So how many of you like burgers? Raise your hand if you like burgers. 2 hands. So in India, there's a really famous alternative called vada pav. So vada pav is kind of like burgers. It has like inside there's a patty which has potatoes in it, and then there's like a bread called pav that's outside. And you find this in a lot of different like restaurants. Even they have street carts that sell food, and you find vada pav like pretty much anywhere you go in India. This one on the list is pasta. How many of you have had pasta recently? I see a bunch of people. So a different a thing that's similar to pasta in India is called dal chokli, and the dal refers to lentil. So it's like a lentil soup, and the chokli is like the pasta inside it. So there's lentil soup, and it has little bits of like similar to pasta, like uncooked pasta, and then it tastes a little bit different than pasta, but the way it's made is very similar. And finally, a dessert. Who likes donuts? There's a very similar alternative in India called gulab jamun, and it is my favorite dessert. It's like it's baked similar to a donut, and it's dipped in sugary syrup. So kind of like Bosnian syrup. It has a lot of syrup in it. So it tastes similar to a glazed donut. And where do you go shopping, or where do your parents go shopping to get you food from? For all your suggestions, guys, those are great places to go for groceries. So in India, they have slightly different stores. There are a lot of farmers markets in India, so they're very common to find, where farmers can come and lay out all of their vegetables, and people can come and buy vegetables straight from the farmer. So this is a great way to get the food directly from the farmer to the customer. Also, grocery stores like the ones that you guys listed. And these grocery stores can be big corporations, or they're most likely going to be smaller businesses. So each neighborhood can have a different grocery store. And you see these kinds of things in those grocery stores. And finally, the last example I have is street vendors. So you don't really see this very commonly in America, but in India, a lot of grocery store kind of owners, they have their own little carts, and they take the carts from neighborhood to neighborhood. So if you're at your home sometimes, you can hear the street vendor calling out that he's selling these vegetables and he's coming through the neighborhood. So you can go outside and buy your vegetables right there. So what is your favorite restaurant? I heard a lot of new restaurants actually. And Pizza Hut is also my favorite restaurant, so good. So you'll be happy to know if you do go to India, a lot of these restaurants are also there in India. So they also have McDonald's, which is on the left, and Domino's on the right. And they also have Pizza Hut and KFC and places like that. Food in India is like street stalls, so roadside stalls. There are a lot of chefs who just set up their stalls beside the street in a busy area, and you can get really good food right on the corner of the street when you're going somewhere. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation about India. So now it's time to test your knowledge a little bit, okay? So you see the food on the right of the screen. Which country do you think it is from? Yeah, it's from India. It's called Uttavam. So I think a lot of you got that right. So great job. I guess you're paying attention. Okay, now the second picture. Which country is this from? This one was from Ecuador. It's called churrasco. Which country is this one from? So think hard about this one. It's from Bosnia. It's called cevapi.
That was really, I think, important for us to think about is food has so many connections, right? So maybe y'all have had some of these dishes before, maybe not. That's totally okay too. But food can connect us in so many ways. So I know for me growing up at least, I food connects me to a lot of my family and friends. And so when I think about having certain foods or seeing certain meals, it reminds me of my grandmother who used to cook a lot of the same things that I eat now, or from my father who used to take me to McDonald's, you know, on Wednesdays after I got a good grade on a test, for example. And so food can connect us all, and even if you haven't necessarily tried a dish before, that is the great thing about life. You can try new things and you can make your own connections, and even maybe if you want, try to make some of these foods at your own home. So who knows? Food can connect us in a lot of ways. And I'm wondering if there are maybe a few people who'd like to share how their favorite foods, the ones that we thought about earlier, how do they make you feel? What do you think of when you think of some of your favorite foods? Well, thank y'all so much for sharing some of those feelings with me. I mean, I definitely agree. I know that when I think of some of my favorite foods, I feel really happy. Sometimes I feel excited because often those foods make me think of memories and times that I've had with the people I've gotten to share them with. And so a lot of foods that are really special to me are one, delicious. I love how they taste, but also they make me think about the people that I love, the friends I've made, things maybe that I've done that I'm really proud of. And so that's something else that's really special about food. We can have feelings and memories associated with food that last even after the food is gone. And I also think that everyone has a story related to food, and maybe it's a big story about how you and your best friend used to share your lunches together, maybe years ago, and you make PB and J with um, salt and pepper. I know that was something kids in my school used to do. They would combine their lunches. Or maybe it's a meal that you have with somebody you really love and care about, or something that somebody taught you how to make. Maybe you all are young chefs now and you like to try things. And so everyone can have personal stories or personal memories that connect to food. And what's really special is when you have the opportunity to share those stories and share those feelings and thoughts related to food with other people. I think that's a great way of getting to know where somebody is coming from, what maybe they care about, what they love. And so I really encourage y'all, as you can, like, share your stories about food and what it means to you. And maybe if you meet somebody new who may not be from the same county in North Carolina as you, or maybe they go to a different school, or they come from a culture that you don't know much about, feel free to share with them. Maybe share some of your favorite foods and what food means to you. I think that's a really beautiful way of bridging connections. So thank y'all so much for listening, your participation. Are there any questions?
So can you guys talk about maybe some of the prices of the food in the countries that you were at, if they were more expensive or less expensive than in the United States?
I found that when I was in Ecuador, a lot of the food was less expensive than food I would get in the United States. So for example, if you wanted to have churrasco, maybe from a local market or a stand, you could get that entire plate. So all of that food with a drink. So maybe like a soft drink or a water, for about $3. $3 could get you all of that. And if you wanted one espumilla for dessert, you could probably get 3 or 4 for maybe $1. So I found that it was really easy for me to save money because I could get a lot of food for less money.
Yeah, so kind of similar to what we talked about last time. You have good memory that you remember that.
Okay, can you get scrambled eggs in any of those countries?
Yeah, in Bosnia, so breakfast wasn't eaten a whole lot, at least in my with my host family. But when we did have breakfast, my host dad would make me scrambled eggs with sausage. So we had it a lot.
Well, thank you for everyone for listening.